Here's another video based on a show that I did on Blog Talk Radio back in 2011. This show addresses my belief that people are motivated by one of two things, either by the desire for something or the fear of something. So they're going to either be running towards something, something that they want, something that they think is going to benefit them in some way, or they're running away out of fear of what it's going to cost them, what they may sacrifice, what they may lose, or the hurt that they anticipate, expect, or imagine is coming. And from my work as an advice columnist, I can tell you flatly that most people are motivated out of fear. So, in this video, we're going to talk about how I came to those conclusions and maybe give you a few ideas for how you can get the fears that you may have that are keep you from moving forward, not only in your relationships, but in your professional life, educational life, and in life in general, just taking chances and, not being so afraid of what you think may happen. Sometimes you're pleasantly surprised at the good things that happen to you. So I'd like you to take a listen. Let me know what you think. As usual, please ignore the shout outs for the phone number to call into the studio. That is no longer my number. It was when I was on Blog Talk back in 2011. It is now. Who knows whose number it is, but it ain't mine. So don't call it, but please enjoy the video and post your comments down below. If you like what you hear, feel free to share the link. I'll talk to you soon.
Uh, this is a topic I've been giving quite a bit of thought to, and so the show wasn't really, scheduled with a lot of advance notice. But I'm hoping that as I go on, we get more and more people in the chat room because of the fact that this topic is one that I think affects 99.9% of single people. Well, actually, probably even married people as well. What I wanted to do was kind of pose a question and have everyone examine their reasons and choices and behaviors as it pertains to romantic relationships. Now, of course, we do that all the time, but this particular aspect of thinking is going to go like this. What is it that's motivating you to make the choices that you make and to choose the path that you have chosen or that you tend to choose most often in your romantic relationships? I'm of the mind that we are choosing what we do and behaving the way that we do out of either fear or love. So that's my contention. And I'd like, of course, your thoughts on the matter as I go along. I'll explain a little bit more about my position so that you understand where I'm coming from with this. So I want to say hello to everyone in the chat room. Hello to my co-host. Thank you very much for your support. We are going to, we're going to get into this in a little bit, but let me give you a little background first. When you look at relationships, there are a lot of fears associated with what's going on and how people behave. There are people are very protective. They're fearful of getting hurt. They're fearful of being used. They're fearful of being subjected to games. They're fearful of being cheated on. They're fearful of, getting some kind of disease. This is the number of fears expressed by people. It's like never ending. The list is just ridiculous. Now, by the same token, we have people that say, well, I am with this person because I love them. Well, what does that mean? And are you really with them out of love, or do you actually have some fears that are kind of pushing you as well? Now, when I was growing up, my dad set me down and he told me, kid, that's what he used to call me, kid, people are motivated by one of two things. Either they're running away from something or they're running to something. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So basically what he meant was they're either chasing something for the pleasure that they perceive that is going to bring them the desire for it, or they're in the process of separating themselves from it and running away because of their fear associated with whatever this is that they think that they want. So basically people are either running to something because they're attracted to it and they want it. They perceive it as being pleasurable and beneficial, or they are running away from it towards whatever they're running from, due to their fears. So I personally, as I've gotten older, have noticed, I don't know, I tend to think more people operate out of a fear base than the pleasure base. I'm a pleasure seeker personally, but I don't tend to see many people like me. When I see most people, when I hear them talk, which I do, because I come into contact with thousands of people every month through my websites and things, they are primarily expressing their fears, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of pain, fear of being ridiculed, all kinds of things, but they all basically are associated with fears. So that's what I want to, kind of get into is what is it that you feel motivates you? What kinds of things have happened in your life? What kind of choices have you made? What is it that you think you can change or should change about the way you behave in your romantic relationships, about the choices that you've made in your romantic relationships, and are those choices based on your desire for something, which is pleasure and enjoyment, or are you fearful, and is that what's motivating you? Now, let me read you a letter that's coming to my advice column. Actually, this is in my book, Sucker-Free Love, How to Avoid Dating the Dumb, the Deceitful, the Dastardly, the Dysfunctional, and the Deranged. In this book, there's a letter. It says, Dear Miss Heartbeat, I've been living with my boyfriend for 2 years. Although we love each other, I'm finding it very hard to live with him. He has OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and is bipolar. These disorders don't affect him much, except he can't finish high school, can't get a job, can't do housework, and is always getting really angry with our 5-month-old puppy. We're always arguing. I'm at the university enrolled as a full-time student and have a job working 25 hours per week. I end up having to come home, pick up after him, take care of the dog, and do homework. I'm so stressed and tired and falling behind in school because of this relationship. How can I make him understand I can't do this on my own while still being sensitive to his disorders? This little girl is 21 years old. She's a baby. Now, you see what I mean? Here we are, and we're looking at this relationship, and I'd like to know your thoughts. Is this a pleasure seeker, or is she fearful? I want to know what you think. What's your analysis? If you have a comment, you'd like to share it, the number to call is 347-327-9215. Press 1 on your keypad. I'd be really happy to hear what you have to say about the letter I just read. Now, I'm thinking, too, that women a lot of times make choices based on fear of being considered an old maid, fear of being considered undesirable, fear of, not having, quote, a man, that kind of thing. So, give a call, share your thoughts on what you think some of the primary fears are that women have. I'd like to kind of create a list. I may use this show to write an article for my blog, Surviving Dating. So if you have some ideas, I'd love to hear them. Okay, caller, 646, what's your question or comment?
Well, I was listening to what you read from your book, and I think that this young woman is suffering from fear. It's sort of the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, which I think a lot of women involved in relationships that don't make them happy, that's what they do. They're not happy in the relationship, but it's familiar to them, and they'd rather be in a relationship that doesn't make them happy than to be alone, because women, I think, are socialized to think that being alone is worse than being in an unhappy relationship. So
I'm with you. I think so too. And it's very unfortunate because, then women get into situations where, they're being abused, they're being cheated on. It's it's a pretty awful situation, and I just hate to see people subject themselves to that kind of thing just to have a relationship.
And women especially do this more so than guys, because women are, again, socialized to put other people's happiness before their own, even when they're little. So they quite naturally will fall into a pattern of being responsible for another grown-up. Like this 21-year-old girl feels like she's responsible for this grown man, picking up behind him and doing all those things, So a lot of it has to do with the mindset, and it's really hard to change the mind, but I don't think that's a healthy relationship for her to be in. So, and
I don't either, especially at only 21. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And but there are a lot of women that put up with a lot of stuff just to say they're in a relationship and that they have a man. And you're right, it does come from fear. And this is a good show, and I'm glad you had it, because I like to. There are a lot of things that could be brought up that women should realize, that being in a bad relationship that's not good, and it's not worse than not being in a relationship at all. So I look forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, callers, any of you listeners, rather, you have a question or comment, or you want to throw your opinions into the ring, the number is 347-327-9215. Press 1 on your keypad, and we will take your call live on the air. So let's talk about specifically, we have a male in the chat room who says that, he needs to get over his fear of approaching women. And that is actually one of the biggest male fears, fear of rejection, fear of being laughed at and ridiculed by women. And I'm not sure why that has such importance, when the guy doesn't even know the woman, you know what I mean? Why do you even care? But it has been repeatedly mentioned by men as being something that they're very, very afraid of. And so that definitely impacts their relationship behaviors, because they're going to be afraid to approach the woman that they're really, really interested in. Nothing's ever going to jump off, because she's going to be waiting for him to let his interest be known, and he's sitting over there saying, oh, my God, if I talk to her, what if she doesn't like me? What if she thinks I look stupid? What if she, is mean to me and says something rude? I mean, what if I ask her to dance and she says no? I mean, the guy's filling his head with all sorts of possible rejection dialogue and behaviors. So in the meantime, now he's just terrified. He'll never ever go after the woman that he really wants, because he's just worked himself up into a frenzy of possible rejection. And, but women have it too. Women, not on the approach like men, but it tends to be more that women are afraid of losing a relationship or a man's attention that they have. Now, I'm going to get into that in a little bit too, because I get letters all the time from women, and they, towards the end of the letter, they sign it, I just don't know what to do. I don't want to lose him. And I'm thinking, what the hell? What you don't, you lose a yo-yo, you lose money out your wallet, you lose, your car keys. You don't lose a man. Men leave because they want to. They don't. You know what I mean? It's nothing you can do, whether you're perfectly beautiful or wonderful or just a total ridiculous pig slob. If a man really wants to be with you, that's where he's going to be. It doesn't matter, all that other stuff. So, we have to talk about all of these things as they pertain to each gender, because I believe each gender has their own specific fears that are particular to their gender. Like the guy in our chat room says he doesn't really know why he's afraid of approaching women, but he is, and that is going to keep him in a state where he unfortunately is alone because he's not willing to risk the rejection, and his fear of rejection rather is freezing him in position. The benefit, though, of breaking through that ceiling, dude, is that you just might, by having the courage to be a little shaky, come on now, man up, you could get the woman of your dreams and the relationship of your dreams. That's the payoff for you getting past your fear. So, I would do everything I can to motivate people to get over their fears, because that's the only way we can really try to get couples together and have people on a page where their relationships are moving forward and they're moving into making a life together. You have to not be afraid. So let's talk about some of the relationship fears that a lot of people, both male and female, have. I think one of the top fears that I've seen is people have a fear of making a mistake. So that, that doubt, that questioning, is this the right person? Do I know them well enough? Are they really who they say they are? What do I do? Oh my God. And the fear that I'm choosing the wrong person, that they're really not who they say they are, that maybe I should pick someone like my mother's told me to instead of who I like. All these self-doubts, all this questioning comes up, and people are fearful of making what they call a mistake. Men, I've noticed, are particularly concerned about a female's sexual past, who she screwed before he came along. They're afraid of making a mistake and picking a woman that they feel may have had, quote, too many, end quote, sexual partners before he happened along. Now, the guys that I've talked to in depth on this subject have expressed such fears as, well, what if he was bigger? What if he was better? What if he made her toes curl and I don't? What if she's just sleeping with me but she's really thinking about him? All kinds of stuff. I'm telling you, just all kinds of concerns and fears that really, in my mind, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, my God, how do you even get up in the morning? You're so fearful of everything. But those are things that guys have expressed as very, very real concerns when it comes to women, fear of making a mistake. And, these days women have a lot of those fears as well. Now, how would you get past that? Probably by, logically thinking, okay, this person is 30 whatever years old, as am I. We both have a past history. Why am I tripping about the past? It's in the past. You worry about what happens today and what happens tomorrow, not what happened last week. That would be my suggestion. Now, people are also very afraid, this has come up time and time again, of repeating a negative behavior pattern. That's a valid fear, because of the fact that unless you most of the time after we've done something 4, 5, 6 times, and you can't not notice the pattern. Okay, I keep choosing people that are unavailable. I keep choosing people that just want to use me for sex. I keep choosing people that lie to me. I keep choosing, whatever is the common denominator. You're starting to notice a pattern. That's when you step back and you want to figure out what you can do to make different choices. Some people actually need to get therapy, and health insurance benefits are beneficial here. Usually it wouldn't take more than about 5 visits to kind of work through something of this nature. why it is that you're choosing the people that you're choosing, what it is that feels comfortable and familiar to you about that negative choice. A lot of times it's in our early childhood family dynamics. And once you recognize them with the help of a competent therapist, you can actually get past that thing in very short order and, move on to find a healthy relationship and, a healthy partner. But if you aren't willing to acknowledge the fact that you have this problem and that you're making these repetitively poor choices, you will continue to be stuck in that rut. So a lot of people have the fear of the past, repeating itself over and over and over again, but it's easy to fix, like I said, and you can move on to something healthy. Now, another common fear that we all have, once you've been hurt, you have a fear of being hurt again. How would you behave in a relationship? Very protectively, very protectively. You're suspicious, you're closed emotionally, mentally, sometimes physically, because especially for women, they know that physical contact, such as repeated positive sexual experiences, can bond them to a man that perhaps they really don't need to be with. Maybe he's a knucklehead. So I've seen that a lot, and we all have fears. No, who wants to get hurt? I mean, very few people that I know are going to just jump into a relationship where they know, the danger signs, the red flags and stop signs all over the place. Very few people are going to be that stupid where they're just going to keep on going anyway. So, we all have those fears. We all want to feel safe in a relationship that we're in. That's just normal. But if your fear of getting hurt is so overwhelming that you can't even let someone, you can't bond with anyone. You can't let someone in. You're so protective that people feel like they can't get a chance to know you, that you're rejecting of them. You're cold. These are the kind of comments that I've heard. If this is you, then you need to really look at yourself and look at your behavior and why you're making the choices that you're making. That's the whole reason I'm doing this show, because I pretty much, like I said, I've narrowed it down. There are basically two ways that we handle ourselves in a relationship. Either we're doing it for love or we're doing it for fear. Those are our two motivators. And our goal tonight is to kind of present a few options so that you can look at yourself and see which one might be you, okay? Now, that getting hurt thing, I don't know, that's very bothersome. The umbrella there is very broad, and it just creates so many problems. And I think a lot of times if people weren't so fearful, they could actually have a really great relationship with someone. Even if you start slow, you start as platonic friends, no one says you have to jump right into a committed relationship or you have to start right off being romantic and sexual and anything. I'm not saying that at all. The best approach really is, if you have those fears, to take your time and deal with them as you move along. Do things at a speed that's comfortable for you, but keep moving forward, okay? Keep moving forward. Don't stop. We also have to look at fear of commitment. This primarily used to be the domain of males. Women, by being very focused on, a relationship, commitment, marriage, family, all the stuff, were the ones pushing for commitment, and the guys were the ones resisting. That has changed a lot. A lot of guys now are the ones saying, hey, I would love to be married. I would love to have a wife. I want a family of my own. I want this kind of lifestyle for myself. And they're having a very, very difficult time finding a woman that wants it as well. So the script has kind of flipped here. A lot of women are finally in a position now where they don't need to be in a committed relationship for survival purposes and all the things that, women had to worry about before. Now being in a marriage or being in a relationship is a choice for females. And once you have this option of choosing a man and choosing to be in a committed relationship, you are also freed from the obligation of it and able to investigate other emotions that you have along with it, which is, that comes with that kind of choice, which might be a little fear, hesitancy. Is this the right man? What is this going to mean long term? What are his expectations of me as, quote, his wife? Am I ready to be a mother? I mean, that's like a lifetime commitment. Oh, my God. What does that mean? I'm afraid of labor. I'm afraid of the delivery and the cramps. What do they call them? Birth pain, the delivery pains, all the stuff. A lot of women have a lot of fears associated with those things. It's basically fear of the unknown, which is another fear that people have. How does that play out? Let's talk about that. When you have a fear of the unknown, you may tend to stay where you are. For some men and women, that will mean that they stay in a relationship that is negative, depressing, abusive, totally unsatisfying physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. Whatever is the problem, they will still stay in the relationship because of the fact that it's the known evil versus the unknown. They would rather stay in a situation where they know what's going to happen and what it feels like than to leave that situation and try for something better. They're terrified. So if you have a comment, you have a question, you want to talk about some fears that you've wrestled with in a relationship, or you have a question for me about how you can, overcome your fears of commitment or dealing with your own partner, the number to call is 347-327-9215. Press 1 on your keypad, raise your little hand up, and I'll take your call. That's 347-327-9215. We're talking tonight about the emotions that drive your choices in relationships, whether you are a person that makes choices for yourself based on love or whether you're a person that makes choices based on fears. So I pretty much feel that we're all one or the other, and this is no scientific proof, and I haven't done any study or anything. I'm just talking about what I've seen. I'm looking at, I think probably about 70-75% of people make their choices based on fear. Everybody is very afraid. I've never seen such a bunch of scary people in my life. Everybody is scared of something. They're afraid of getting hurt, afraid of getting used, afraid of getting abandoned, afraid of being rejected, all kinds of stuff. So, let me know what your thoughts are. Okay, so we had some success in the chat room with our male who is afraid of rejection. Well, that's good. Thanks, co-host. Yeah, let's hope that works out for the young man. Let's see. Now, let's talk about this fear of commitment thing. I think it may be a little different for men than it is for women. Why? I think a lot of it has to do with socialization. You got to remember, men are socialized to avoid commitment, right, for the most part. They're trained, don't be in a hurry, you got to find the right woman, just sow your wild oats. That's one of the phrases men are told, these kind of things. So basically, guys are given permission and actually encouraged to go out, date plenty of women, sleep with plenty of women, and get all that out of their system before they make a decision to settle down. Women get a different message. Women get a message that if you are not married, you are nobody. You have to be a wife. Otherwise, you're not a woman that needs to even be given the time of day. You're not recognized in society as being anything of value if you're single. Of course, these things have changed, or are in the process of changing. But it's amazing to me how much that mentality is still being perpetuated, especially within religious belief systems. So, they're very pro-marriage, which, of course they are. They want people having extramarital sex. They want people to be married and have it. So, I totally understand the concept. But what I'm saying is the message being delivered to men versus women are two different messages, and they may have an impact on the reason why the genders fear commitment. I would believe that the reasons that men and women fear commitment are very, very different. Okay? Excuse my stuffy nose. It's just like allergy city around here. It's like every plant and weed in the world is blooming. Oh, I've been like sneezing and runny nose and just awful. So, then we have to talk about, and I was on another Blog Talk show a little earlier today, and they were talking about parents and single parents' homes and how is it possible for a woman to really raise up a man. Now, there were, a young man to manhood. Now, there were two moms there whose sons have turned out wonderfully. They're doing great things for themselves. They're very proud of their sons, going to college, they're doing nice things. One's getting married. You know what I mean? So it was nice to hear that these mothers were successful in raising their boys into manhood by themselves. So some of the male callers, a couple of guys were like, well, he just, you might have done a good job, but just think he would be even better if he had, a man in his life. Well, I'm saying this. There's no guarantee of that. There's no guarantee of that. That was just merely conjecture. And I could hear the doubt and confusion in the kid's mother's, conversation. She's trying to figure out if what this guy is saying would have any validity. I'm saying if your son has achieved every positive goal that you two have set for him, then there's nothing more for him to achieve, and you need to tell that guy to get lost. So, what we have, though, are some men who may be fearful of women in a situation where they have been raised by one. Now, let me kind of explain that. I don't want people to run wild and think, I'm saying that, mothers are dreadful people and they can't raise boys. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that at some point, whether it's a grandfather, an uncle, an older brother, a male teacher, something, somewhere in a young man's life, he needs to have modeled for him behavior towards women by a man of quality, a man who treats women with respect. He needs to see that. That would counter a lot of the behavior that is observable on television and in the media of the way that men treat women. We don't want boys growing up thinking that. We don't want any young man being raised up with misogynistic attitudes. Now, what happens is, those at that conflict that young men experience between their anger at women, their frustration for they're feeling like women are keeping them from getting something that they want. So they're blaming women. This is a very, very common attitude that I run into a lot online. Blame women for what men don't have and for what men are not. Women are blamed. Now, by the same token, these men have a real need for women. It's natural. Women want men, men want women. That's just the way it is. If we're normal, what they call normal, quote, heterosexual normal, whatever. So if that's the case, then, the men are going to want the women, the women are going to want the men. But just imagine, if you have a lot of rage built up at that gender, yet you strongly desire that gender, yet you're fearful that they're going to reject you and hurt you in some way, how are you going to behave towards that gender? I'll tell you. You're going to turn out to be one of those rage-filled, angry, I don't know, just rage-filled and angry. That's pretty much how it's going to manifest. And we have a lot of that out here in the dating world, and you'll see women with these guys, bending over backwards to placate them, to make nice, to give them what they need, to show them that they have no need to be jealous. If the guy yells and rants and raves and hits her, she somehow will, try to say, well, I must have said something, I did something to make him mad. So, she's bending over backwards to placate him. This kind of thing is very sad because what we have is a man who has an unacknowledged need. His need for his woman is so strong it scares the crap out of him. So rather than him admit it and just deal with it, he tries to put her in a position where he puts her down. He tries to make her as dependent on him as he is on her by being verbally or physically abusive, perhaps financially controlling, all these kinds of things. So he puts her in a position where she has, he tries to limit the power that she has over him by every means possible. But the bottom line is, if you have a man who's doing that kind of stuff and talking to you that way, his need for you is so overwhelming, it scares the crap out of him. So he doesn't even know how to deal with it, with his need for you and his dependency. Now, I'm not saying that you should take it. I'm not saying that, you have to be understanding of it, and I'm not saying that he is right. I'm just explaining the behavior, because that's all I'm talking about tonight, whether people behave in the way that they do out of love or out of fear. Those are our two choices. You have comments? I've been talking a lot. Not too many people have comments. I'm kind of surprised because I thought, everyone has experiences. We've all made choices or not done something, not pursued a relationship, broke off a relationship, broke off a marriage, didn't move forward in a situation because of our own fears and concerns. So, share those, the number. So we're back on our topic tonight, which is your relationship choices. And are they motivated by love? Or are they motivated by fear? I think this, we need to kind of look at ourselves. A lot of our choices are, I believe, motivated by fear primarily. People run from pain, from thinking that they're going to be hurt, that they're going to be used, they're going to be taken advantage of in some way. We hear it a lot online, especially, things concerning female sexuality. A lot of guys think that a woman is only going to be with them for their money, that she only wants them for money. Even as far as them having children, that the woman is, after child support, not realizing that little funky money, that ain't shit. And compared to how much it costs to really raise a child, that is a pittance compared to, the money that's going to be invested in that child. So unless you're Michael Jordan or somebody, you know what I mean? Just your regular average working dude, that little money that you're paying for child support is a joke. So it helps, but it doesn't really do too much anything. So those are the issues that we're going to be talking about tonight. We have about another hour on the show. Give a call to 347-327-9215 if you have a question or comment. I'd love to hear how some people maybe, by thinking about what I've said, perhaps have arrived at some conclusions about the ways they behave and how self-protective and fearful you really are. What is it that you're doing or not doing that is based on fear that's keeping you from getting the relationship that you really want? So now we're going to talk about men's fears, as I promised before my intermission there. I'm thinking that men's fears can pretty much be divided into 4 top-level categories. Number 1, fear of rejection. Number 2, fear of failure. Number 3, fear of being revealed. And number 4, fear of someone having power over them. Those are the 4 things I'm thinking are the top fears that men have. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fear of rejection. When a man feels that he is putting his all into a situation, he's putting his ego on the line, he's expecting a certain payoff from doing that. Now, when he isn't rewarded the way that he expected to be, He's basically being rejected. He's being told that in some way, shape, or form, he's not good enough, he doesn't make the cut, he doesn't make the grade, he's out. Men hate that. Well, actually, I don't know too many women that like it either, but for some reason, it seems to be more the domain of the male, so we'll kind of stick to that. Guys need to feel needed, and that feeling of being needed gives them purpose. It gives them a role, and men seem to really need that. This is what I'm doing. This aspect of my life, I am important because I'm doing this. Guys seem to need that. They need that outside confirmation by their bosses, by their spouses, by their families, children, whatever, that they are worthy and good and successful and wonderful, and because they are admired and accepted by these people. Men seem to need that, I think, a lot more than women do. So when a man feels that he could be rejected, he's worried that someone else could take his place. He's worried that someone else is better than him. So that's why I think guys worry so much about what a woman has done sexually, because he's feeling like, well, if I'm not, laying this pipe right, she's going to leave me and go find someone who does. If my piece, my Johnson is not big enough, she's going to leave me and go find someone whose is bigger. If I'm not making enough money, she's going to leave me and go find someone who is. If I'm not a good husband, she's going to leave me and go find someone who is. You see what I mean? These are all fear things. Even though he may love her, that's not what's motivating him. That's not the choice at all. What's motivating him is his fear. The same thing goes with women. A lot of women are fearful too. Women's fears are slightly different. I'm just going to touch on this one thing, that women stay in bad relationships because they're fearful. A lot of times it has to do with their self-esteem, their self-confidence. They stay into bad relationships where they're not being appreciated or even treated with respect because they feel that they can't do better, that no one is going to love them as much as this guy does. No one's going to take care of them. No one's going to be as good to them as he is, even though he really may not be. So that's the male and the female perspective. Now back to men, as I promised my chat room guy. Okay, so we talked about fear of rejection. Let's talk about fear of failure. Guys, I think they're kind of tied. They're a little bit, they're kind of piggybacking on each other, but they're slightly different. Because men have been socialized to be strong, accomplish things, accomplish goals, to win, to be the victor, to be successful, right? So if a guy is not those things, then that's where the failure comes in. It doesn't have anything really to do with like approaching a woman as far as a date and, to ask her out or dance or whatever. That's the fear of rejection thing. To me, that's a little bit lower level. Once we get into the fear of failure, we're talking about career, family, long-term relationship, who this man is as a man in the world. And he is afraid that that he's not going to be accepted as a person of worth and value. So he cannot fail. If he tries to get a better job and he goes out for the exam to, take this, he can't fail because then people will be like, damn, man, you dumb as hell. You can't even pass the test. You bogus. You fraudulent. You this, you that. Okay, that ridicule, that emotional taunting, that pain, just he can't take it. So a guy wants to succeed once he decides to get married, he wants his marriage to succeed. I don't really know any men that look for their marriage to fail, although you would think some of them do since they started cheating and stuff. But if you really talk to them, they say, no, I don't want to get a divorce. And I'm thinking, well, what did you do? What you did, knucklehead? Come on now. What you think she's gonna do? Just stay with you? You just gonna be screwing all these different women and stuff? Come on now. But they really don't want to fail as a husband, as a father, in their job. Men don't want to fail. So that desire to be successful is a strong motivator for men. The fear of failure will keep them on the straight and narrow many times. Now, then we get into something a lot deeper, the fear of letting himself be known. That is very risky for guys because it requires vulnerability. It requires him to bare his soul to a woman who would then have the power, most men feel, to totally devastate him, like rip his heart out, throw it in the blender and, make a protein drink out of it. They're very, very protective of their hearts and just terrified that the woman that they love is going to hurt them, like they read in the newspaper, or like, their buddy got, dogged out by his ex or whatever. They don't want that to happen to them. So a man will fear telling a woman about the things that he feels make him, in her eyes, be, I guess, weak is the best way to phrase that. He doesn't want her to see him as weak, as needy, dependent, lacking, unsure of himself, incompetent, any of those things. Those are all those things are why he would be kind of hesitant to really express his doubts, his concerns, or his fears. You're not going to hear about them, ladies. It's a very rare relationship where the man feels comfortable enough with his woman to lay all that out. And a lot of these guys, like one guy I was talking to, just like I meet people in, like public settings. I was at this bar. Oh, my God, this guy just said way too loud. I was like, ooh, TMI, TMI. He was telling me, well, my wife, I don't know, I have some interest, some fetishes and stuff. And he's been married to this woman for 10 years. And he's like, I have these fetishes, and, I'm afraid to tell her. And I'm like, oh, so how long have you two been married? 10 years, he says. I said, and you have not told her in 10 years. He said, no, because I'm afraid that she's going to think something's wrong with me and she's going to leave me. And I just felt so sorry for him. This is your life partner, and it's something that you feel would turn you on and make your physical relationship with your wife exciting for you. Why would you not tell her? I just don't get that. So, I couldn't really tell the dude what to do. That's, his decision. But in my mind, his hesitancy was making him live a life with his wife, who's supposed to be his life partner, as it was a false life. He wasn't really telling her who and what he really was. He wasn't really telling her, she wasn't giving her the opportunity to really please him and to be a really, really integral part of his life. He was protecting himself from fear of failure and fear of rejection by not telling her. So in the meantime, though, he's got this hunger that she can easily feel, but he doesn't trust her to do it. So I just looked at him really, I don't know. That still bothers me. That was a couple of weeks ago, and that still, I still see his face, and he's looking all sad, and then I'm thinking, well, shoot, I hope you don't think I'm going to feel that need, because that ain't my job description, home skillet. But, I felt like he was, just kind of sharing some of the issues that he has as a man, and I just didn't know what to do with that. I just really felt sad for him. Okay, then the last one is the fear that men have of a woman having power over them. So this is, I think this is pretty much a fear that most men have. It's kind of universal. Men don't want to have a woman have power over them. Men tease other men. They call, oh, man, you pussy whoops, you got punked, you whooped, you sprung, you this and that. And they will tease a guy endlessly that has that what they perceive to be that attitude. But the bottom line is as for women like me that are, I consider myself more of a feminist, not to say I don't love men at all. I mean, I totally do. But what I want is a man whose mind is open, who's not in 1927. I want a man who's in 2010 as far as his attitudes about females and the gender and what he's going to do with and for me in a relationship. I need that modern attitude. So these guys, they feel very threatened sometimes about, women. They talk a lot about how women's liberation has affected male-female relationships, especially black men will tend to blame the demise of the black community and any ills that we have on black women's participation in the in the women's liberation movement. And, this is very sad that they can't see that the fact that when women are liberated, it liberates you too. You're not stuck in a cage. You're not limited on all these strict roles of manhood. You're free. If you want to stay at home with your kids and raise them and cook and clean, you can do that, dude. You're not limited like you used to be, just like women were. So it's freeing actually for men and women. But some guys don't understand that. So, some guys, like if a woman asks a guy to do something and he says, okay, she asks him to do something, he feels like if he says okay, that she's bossing him, that she's controlling him. So he doesn't want to, he'll say no just to, to assert himself as a man, not realizing she's asked you to do something because she needs your help. This is your household too, chump. You live here. These are your kids just like they're hers. You sleep in the same bed sheets, so why can't you put the sheets on the bed? Why can't you wash some laundry? You using them towels? You eating off of them plates? Wash some dishes. See what I mean? So it's like, but it's the fact that she asked him for this kind of help, some guys will resent it and say, well, she's trying to control me, she's trying to boss me, so he's going to resist all that with every ounce of his being, and it could create some problems. Now, so like I said, okay, now we're down to like 30 minutes. You guys are being terribly quiet out there. I'm really surprised. If you don't have if you do have something to say, I would love to hear it. The number is 347-327-9215. That's 347-327-9215. And, share your thoughts. Let's see what you got to say on what fears may have motivated you in the past or the present. What's keeping you stuck where you are? Is it fears? What's making you stay in a situation that maybe is really not, ideal for you? You know this in your mind. You know it. You know it's where you don't need to be there. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be with this person. Why are you there? Is it fear or is it love? So give me a call, 347-327-9215. I wanted to say a few more things about women. So I talked about men and their fears. Let's move on to the female version of that. Now, a lot of women get accused of staying in negative relationships. Men do it too, but let's, since we already talked about the top male fears, we got to switch tactics now. We're going to talk about top female fears. Okay? So I don't want to get into that tit and tat. Yeah, well, women do it too, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we talked about men, now we're going to talk about women. Why is it that women stay in bad relationships? What the hell is that? You're getting your butt kicked. You're not getting no help. You're stressed the hell out. You look crazy. It's just all bad. It's all bad. Why are you still there? Well, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of women have been socialized to be devoted to their men, irregardless of how he responds to them and how he treats them. You stay with him. That's your man. You need to stand by your man. You need to be a support system. You have to be, you know what I mean? So women hear this. So a lot of women are brainwashed to think that they need to stay in a relationship with a man who treats them like crap no matter what, they need to stay there. Okay? That's one reason. Another top reason is low self-esteem. I've talked about this on many shows. Some women, I'm thinking sometimes, I swear, I think low self-esteem is like a virus. It's like an epidemic. The CDC needs to be in on this. That's how prevalent it is. And I'm not understanding why, but I see it time and time again. And I think low self-esteem plays a huge role in women's choices for partners and why they stay in the relationship that they stay in. Another is children. Women will stay in relationships, again, socialization, because they've been told that they need to stay in those relationships for the sake of their children. Sometimes it's very realistic. I mean, the guy is one of those, as I said, financially controlling guys, and, the woman has no financial resources. She doesn't want her kids starving and living on the street in a tent or whatever, so she stays in the situation that she's in, even though she's miserable, because she wants her children to have food, clothing, and shelter. And then again, we're back to fear. So here we go. Now, we'll talk about the denial aspect. Some women believe that staying in a bad relationship will somehow help their man become better. This is perpetuated by stories that we hear. I just read one online the other day, I think it was on Facebook, where somebody's dad, had been a cheater and a drinker and just a complete fool for 20 years. Mom stayed with him, and at the end he, found the Lord and turned into a preacher and, became this model citizen, and the mother felt, vindicated because she stayed with this clown all through this drama, and then in the end he was, a man of God and all this old stuff. That's fine if you have that kind of patience and that's what you want to do. But, by not admitting that the relationship is as bad as it is, I think a lot of women are able to put themselves in that mental state where they can kind of ignore what's happening and stay in the relationship and say, well, I'm doing what I need to do because this is my husband, this is the person that, I chose to be with, and I need to stick this out and do everything I can to help him. And a part of me says that's admirable, and then the other part of me says that's bullshit. So I'm really torn. I'm really torn on it. I can't really, give a definitive answer. I think it pretty much has to be, whatever that particular woman can tolerate. And I know I wouldn't do it, though, but, some women do, and they seem to be, quite okay with it, and they get the payoff in the end. And there's women that spend 30 years of their life trying to support some knucklehead who's like a crack fiend, in and out of prison, just stupid, abusive, whatever. And, by then, they're in their 60s, and they're all beaten down and worn out, chasing, supporting some man who is just useless. He was useless 30 years ago, and he's still useless. So I can't really tell anyone how to handle that. That has to be definitely a personal decision. My job here is merely to point out some of the things that you should think about. That's my job. Now, what you think about it and the conclusion that you come to, that's on you. But my job is merely to bring issues to the forefront, present them for investigation and analysis, and for you to consider them, flip them over, see if they apply to your job, your situation and your life, and, to help you, guide you to the decision that you feel is the best for you. That's what I do. That's it. That's all I do. That's what to me, that's the job of an advice columnist. So, I think about things that you perhaps haven't thought of, and I present them to you for analysis. But the final decision is always, always yours. Okay? So we talk about that devotion thing, the denial of, that there really is a problem and that it might not get better. So, these women are devoted. They stay with the dude. Okay. Now, then we move into the low self-esteem. When a woman feels like, and this may be her own feeling about herself, or maybe something that, the man or other people have told her, You can't do any better. Who you think wants you anyway? You ain't shit. Look at you. You don't have nothing to offer. You look like this. You ain't that. You ain't. You see what I mean? So you imagine you're hearing that for year after year, year after year. Wouldn't you at some point kind of start to believe it maybe? You know what I mean? You start to think, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I really don't, because no one else is coming forward telling me that that's not true, and I really do feel like nothing, so I guess it must be true. You see what I mean? It's not really hard. So if you have a woman that has low self-esteem, it's very easy for an abusive type of male to put her in a mind in a situation where she feels like, what he's saying is true, and that he's the best thing that she can get. He's the best thing that she can have for herself. And it's really, really bad. Let's see. I'm looking in the chat room now. Let's see what I got. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'll comment on that later. Okay, and I'm still talking about women and some of the issues that women have in relationships. We're down in our final, 20 minutes of the show. If you have a comment, this is the time to, make it happen. 347-327-9215. 347-327-9215. We're talking about what emotion drives your relationship. Are you motivated by love, or are you motivated by fear? Which one is the strongest motivator for you in your interpersonal romantic relationships? My personal stance, I'm thinking that most people, it's fear. And because I keep hearing it all the time. I'm afraid that he's going to leave me. I'm afraid she's going to cheat on me. I'm afraid she's going to think somebody's better than me. I'm afraid, people are very, very fearful. So let's see. A lot of the reason why women won't leave a poor relationship is, the children issue. I think most women want their kids to grow up with their dad. And there are a few knucklehead types of women who are like, you ain't going to never see your kids. But, for the most part, I think, a sensible woman understands the value of her child having a relationship with his father. Now, as long as that father's not a fool, I know few women who would interfere with that, Most women want their children to be around daddy and for them to experience that closeness and those ties. So a lot of women will stay in a relationship because they don't want to feel responsible for, quote, breaking up the family, end quote. And even though I'm not sure I'm not convinced that is really a smart move. I'm thinking if a child sees his mother miserable, that does more harm to the child than the mother leaving and being happy. So I know my stance is not a common one, but that is my stance, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, caller, your mic's open. What's your question or comment?
What if you are in a situation with someone and you're not unhappy, you're just kind of hanging with them and you're both content, but it's not really what you want. So you want to leave maybe and find what you want. It's like what you have brings it to the forefront that it's not really what you want. Where are you coming from in that way, in that regard?
Gotcha. Well, I think some of that may be what I was getting ready to get into in the next issue, which is fear of the unknown. Some people prefer to stay in a situation that, they know what's going to happen. They know the person. They know the person's attitude. They know what the sex is going to be like. They know, what that person likes. It's comfortable. It's convenient. It's a no, not really much in the way of stress. There's a lot of not compromise. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, basically, you're settling for something you know you don't really want, but some people say, well, at least this is blah, 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 and I'll just kind of hang out here until I find what I really want. And so, it becomes a comfort situation. It's comfortable, it's easy, it's convenient. And,
is there anything wrong with that? Hanging out with somebody till you...
It depends on where you are in your life. Like I said, not everyone's looking for a long-term committed relationship and marriage and all that stuff, at least not at that point. So I think people need to be just very clear about where they are in life and what they want. It only becomes settling if you want something more, but you take that because, just because. That's when it becomes settling. But if you are like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm trying to get this and that, this is convenient, it fits into this little pocket of my life that I've set aside for this, level of emotional intimacy or whatever, and it's okay with you, you don't want it to be anything more, and that's the only space that you have in your life, then it's all gravy. Everybody's needs are getting met, like big, like adults. It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, people. So then we talk about the fear of the unknown, what's going on there. A lot of women fear that they won't meet anybody new. I hear that all the time. Well, I'm afraid to let him go. What if I don't meet nobody else? I'm afraid nobody's going to be around. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be lonely, all this old stuff. And so they will tend to stay in a situation with a man who is totally, totally useless, not what they want at all. As a matter of fact, let me see, I have a letter like that in here. I'm flipping through my book now, trying to find it. Well, I guess I should have marked these pages off. Okay, women who, what am I talking about? Fear of the unknown. Okay, women that won't let go because they don't know what else is going to happen. And I'm flipping through here to see. Oh, this chick. Okay, here's one. This is just really sad. She says, "Dear Miss Heartbeat, I am in a new dating relationship with a man that has fathered 2 children with 2 different women. While I'm not experiencing the, quote, baby mama drama, end quote, I am very aware of their presence. Although I love this man, I feel like I'm making a mistake. He was my high school sweetheart, and we recently started seeing each other again. With my past history of being cheated on, I am very insecure, and I can't accept that these 2 women are forever going to be in his life. I cry myself to sleep often because I feel like I'm forcing myself to be in this relationship. I am just so scared he is going to cheat on me with them, but even more scared to be alone. I'm young and educated, and I want so much more for myself, but I don't think it's out there. At times I feel like I'm settling. Please speculate on this situation." And she signs her letter, female 24, crying all the time. Now, isn't that about the saddest thing you've ever heard in your life? You talk about fear of the unknown. This chick is just like terrified of going after what she wants and letting this loser, negative situation go. Okay, caller, you have another comment? Let's see. Oops. There we go. You have another question or comment?
No, I don't have another comment. I was just listening to what you were saying. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. All right. Yeah, so, it's like she has the fear that she won't meet someone new, that, that this guy is the best that she can do, and that's just really sad to me. She's trying to figure out what's going to happen to her if she leaves him alone, And I'm thinking it can't possibly be any worse than what you got right now. Are you kidding me? So, that's a perfect example of what I was talking about, though, that women don't want to let go and move on. Okay, last minute, you all got 15 minutes. If you have a question or comment, this is the time to do it. 347-327-9215. Press 1 on your keypad, and I'll take your call live on the air. Now, another issue that let's talk about some of the other things that women are afraid of. I think women have a lot of fears. Men's fears tend to be more kind of esoteric. They're just like, oh, yeah, I'm afraid she's going to laugh at me. I'm afraid she's going to reject me. I'm afraid she won't dance with me. She won't go out with me. She won't this. Okay, women tend to have fears that are very tangible, such as, I'm afraid of getting pregnant, okay? That is a very real fear. That is a tangible fear that can change her life forever, okay? Even if she doesn't have the kid and she gets an abortion, it still changed her life forever. Just going through that abortion experience alone will change her life forever. So, women have a lot of fears that I think men don't have. Guys are afraid of, she's going to reject me, she's going to hurt my feelings, she's going to talk about me, she's going to laugh at me. Women are afraid of rape, of being, assaulted by men in other ways, of pregnancy, of, getting breast cancer and, having their breast cut off or something. There's all kinds of fear, of gaining too much weight so that men don't find them attractive. A lot of women are afraid of that. Women are afraid of, even if they have children, they have a lot of fears associated with that. And, and the number one fear I think that women have is their fear of losing a man, losing a relationship, of being abandoned. That is a common fear. It seems like I actually remember reading probably about 10, 15 years ago, some article I was reading, I think it was Psychology Today, and they were talking about women's number one fears. Women's fears, and the top fear, because I remember this, the only thing I don't remember is where I read it, but I remember the fear was that women were afraid of being abandoned, that fear of abandonment. And I'm looking at, let's look at the vast number of young women whose fathers have abandoned them. They don't have any relationship with their dad. Might there be a correlation? I was just wondering. I'm not saying there is. I'm just putting that out there for thought. So, some other Blog Talk hosts might want to pick up the baton and run home with it. That's, kind of outside the realm of what I do on my show. But I think it's a very valid thing for investigation. And I definitely think it would impact young women's perceptions of romantic relationships and their choices and behaviors within the relationships. So 347-327-9215. So let's talk about this fear of losing a man, quote, losing. How the hell do you lose a man? I mentioned that earlier in the show that I feel like, you can lose keys, you can lose, money in, Las Vegas, you can lose your way while you're driving, you can, something like that. Basically, loss is something that, you have a tangible product, tangible thing, and you don't have it anymore. To me, a person is not like that. People are able to think for themselves, to locomote on their own, and to walk, therefore, to make the decision in their own head to walk out or walk into your life. You don't control that. So there's no way you can, quote, lose a man. He stays with you because he wants to. He leaves when he damn well pleases. And so I really have a problem with women that believe this mess that they, quote, lose a man. But you got to remember, There are a lot of us that are modern women that don't really feel like, we feel like a man is an option and a wonderful, thing to have, if you can find one that you, really get along with, but it's not a necessity. However, there are many, many, many women who have been socialized to think they are nothing unless they have a man. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how much money you have, where you've been in the world, what accomplishments you've made socially or career-wise. None of that matters if you don't have a man. So some of us haven't been socialized that way, but many of us have. And so a woman who believes that she is nothing without a man is going to be terrified of losing him. These are the women who, sometimes you'll find do drugs, do threesomes, do criminal acts, do all kinds of stuff to hang on to a relationship with a man, and that just brings them down. So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not advocating any of the stuff I'm saying tonight. I am merely throwing things out there for you guys to think about. Is this you? Have you done these things? Have you considered doing these things? Are the attitudes that I'm putting out on the table for investigation and analysis some things that have crossed your mind? That's all I'm doing. I just really, I just want you to think about how you behave in relationships and what has motivated you to do the things you've done, say the things you say, and behave the way that you behave. Are you motivated out of love for this person, or are you motivated by fear? And like I said, I see most people motivated by fear, because if you were motivated by love, if your person said, your partner said to you, I really want us to get closer. Can you tell me more about yourself? I want to get to know who you are as a person. You wouldn't have any problems with that. You wouldn't run and hide and say, well, what you want to know that for? And, you don't need to know that, and all the defensive statements that people make to stay hidden. You would willingly share yourself with that person. If you were behaving out of love, gifts, your time, your affection, those kind of things would be given willingly and freely at every opportunity, because you love that person. You want to do the best for them. You would not taunt their hobbies and interests and say mean things to them, because you would be motivated out of love. You want them to be enriched. You want them to achieve greatness, and you're going to do everything you can to make sure that happens. You see what I mean? So I honestly believe in most instances, and I would really guesstimate 95% that most people are motivated to do what they do and say what they do out of fear of loss, fear of not, of rejection, fear of not getting what they want. So then, we got about 8 minutes left in the show. I would sure wish I would have had some calls from you guys, and so you could share, your thoughts and experiences with this fear thing, because I know I can't possibly be the only one that has experienced fear in relationships. It's something as simple as, let me give you an example. And this was a fear, this was a choice that I made based on fear. It definitely wasn't love, because I didn't know this fool. Went out to dinner with this dude, and he was nice and everything. I'm not trying to be color prejudiced or nothing, but dude was a little, pale for my taste. When he actually, it was a blind date, and when I actually saw him, I could have sworn he looked like a white guy. But it was, he was a brother, but he just looked white. And so, we talked, we had a good time and everything. And after that, we were talking on the phone, and it was all good. And then he sent me this text that was like, highly sexual. It was innuendo, let me put it that way. So it's the kind of thing, he didn't actually say anything sexual, but he alluded to it. And since I'm not stupid, I knew what he meant. Okay. So now, this is when the fear comes in. So I'm looking at this text, right, and I'm thinking, now, what is it that he really is trying to say here? What is he really trying to do? What is he really trying to get from me? So it wasn't, I didn't approach him from a position of love, like, oh, he really likes me, he wants to. I recognized that this was some bullshit-ass game, some kind of booty game. I didn't want to play it. I'm not interested in that lifestyle, even though I feel like every woman who is has the right to do it. Please don't, please believe me. If that's what you want, that you have every right to do for it, go for it. But it's not what I'm choosing for myself at this stage of my life, and so I wasn't interested in his conversation. It took it in a whole different direction other than, where I wanted to go. So my fears kicked in that all he was after was some ass. I did not want that. So I put the brakes on it and dismissed him from my world. Now, we had only been out one time. It's like I don't feel like I owed him too much or nothing other than, ain't happening, home skillet. And then I cut him from the team. That was it. And, but a lot of women won't do that. They want to feel like, oh, I need to be nice. I don't want to hurt his feelings and all this stuff. And I'm thinking I could give less than a shit. The bottom line is better his feelings be hurt than mine. That's my attitude. And that's how I dealt with it. So last minute, anyone got questions or comments? 347-327-9215. If you have had a situation where you were running from someone out of fear, that would be a comment you could make. If you have a situation where you were really trying to get with someone because you truly, truly love them and fear was not an issue, that would also be a comment that you can make. I'd welcome your call in the final minutes of the show. We're talking tonight about love and fears and how those two things motivate a woman or man to make the choices that they make and behave the ways that they behave in their romantic relationships. My co-host has been holding it down in the chat room. Thank you, girlfriend. She's been doing a great job. Got a lot of great guests in the chat room. Thank you all for showing up.